welcome to the LGBTQ New Americans Oral History Project. This is Wilfredo Hernandez, Arts and Culture Group Leader here at Brooklyn Community Pride Center.
And I'm Jackie Adashkin, Public Affairs Director for Immigration Equality.
And today is Wednesday, May 31st, 2017.
And we are here with...
My name is Okboro Edafe. I'm a new LGBT immigrant to Nigeria, to the US. So at the Brooklyn Pride Community Center to shoot the documentary for the LGBTQ New American Project.
Great.
Welcome.
Welcome. So, can you tell us where you grew up?
I grew up in a little town in Nigeria, down south, named Delta State. Delta State is the oil-rich state in Nigeria, but we're classified as a minority. But Delta State has been the backbone of the natural resource which is exported out of Nigeria, and oil is a major resource which is the major source of income to Nigeria. So we're the highest producers of oil in Nigeria. I was born in Warri, Delta State, Nigeria.
And what was it like growing up there?
Oh, at the beginning it was very nice because as a child I have no issue of being a child. I was taken care of by my parents and I had a lot of friends who I played with, and we are very known for being rugged and very aggressive, because Warri are tagged to be like, there's a term they call it in Nigeria, they say Jaguda. Jaguda are guys who are very masculine and who are very, very aggressive. So it was very fun at a young age, play on the streets. Because in Nigeria, there's a game we play on the streets, like Saturday morning, they have sanitation. During the sanitation, we come out, play football on the streets. It was very nice growing up in such kind of local setting where you are free to exercise yourself as a strong and a masculine guy on the streets. It was fun growing up. And I had two sisters and an elder brother, so they were there for me. It was easy being myself as a child, growing up in Warri.
And you mentioned playing the game every Saturday, and what other kind of things did you enjoy doing growing up? Your favorite activities?
The kind of activities we found ourselves doing were playing hide and seek games. Like there's a game we play, we count 1, 2, 3, and the person that is to chase, you close your eyes. At the count of 3, when you open your eyes, everybody have disappeared. So you are running literally to look for the people wherever they are hiding. It was a very fun game. We call it hide and seek. And there's a game we play, we call it the game boss. So we draw boss on the floor. So we put seats on the box and we try to jump over it. When your legs become tired and you fall on that particular boss, you have lost the game. A very nice and interesting game.
So it sounds like you really enjoyed growing up there.
Yes, I really enjoyed my time growing up there because there's this genuinity in the struggle. We are in the riverine area, so we usually go with boats. We construct boats with woods to swim from the shore. Mid of the river, we jump from the boat into the water, try to swim back to the shore. We go also to fish with baits like worms. We hook it on a line. We try to get fish, bring it back home. We go to the backyard, like roast the fish, things like that. So we like to prove that we are matured. We don't need the support of our parents to get food to eat sometimes. We just do stuff within ourselves that makes us feel that we are free and we are a part of the struggle in the riverine area. But when I was growing up, there was something bad that really happened in 1999. There was this crisis that happened in the Warri region of Nigeria, where the government was against the bunkering. Oil pipelines were passing under our houses, but the government doesn't want to pay compensation to the village members, so they were breaking the pipeline, causing forms of violence to get the government attention towards paying this money, but the government also refused. So there was a crisis, which was the 1999 Warri crisis, which led to a very big fight. My family, we moved from a main Warri town to a mid town between Warri and another town, which I did my secondary schooling and my primary schooling, but we had to leave Warri then because the crisis took up. They were burning houses, everywhere was on flame, the roads were on tires, people were just protesting, trying to say, we make all the natural resources, why don't you give back something to the society and make us feel as if we are part of the people who contribute to the resources of the country. So that was the only major issue we had in the 90s when I was growing up.
Around how old are you when that was happening?
I was 9 years old. And it was really difficult for me when it happened because literally there was no form of transportation to move out of the city because there was coffee. There were like military governments just stepped down, and it was the first democratic government in Nigeria. So in 1998, that was the end of the military regime. 1999, the first democratic president, President Olusegun Obasanjo, was elected, and these people were like, now we are in democracy, let us get something back from the society. It was really, really difficult. Even close to my house, there was like wild gunfire, you hear sounds on your roof. Nobody was comfortable, everybody was fidgeting, so we had to flee. So it took us 4 days to leave the city. Me and every member of my family, we moved from one place to another. We spent the night there like that until we were able to move out of the city. It was very difficult, but we had to move.
And you had to move again later. So can you tell us when you came to the US?
My journey of moving has been something constant because after we left 1999, when I got into secondary school in 2001, I moved to another city because the traits of me being a gay was showing up, and I had to go somewhere else because a lot of things happened on the way, which I will get back to. I came to the United States on 28th of October 2016 through the JFK airport. When I came, I asked for asylum and I was detained at Elizabeth Detention Center. So I was moving out of Nigeria because of the persecution I faced in Nigeria as an LGBT pro-gay rights activist and a gay man myself. So I was coming to the US to seek freedom, but when I got to the border, all I saw was just border patrol officers at JFK and a big cell. I found myself at Elizabeth Detention Center, New Jersey.
And what was that experience like?
Oh my God. I was grateful I was alive because immigrants are different from asylees. We asylum seekers, LGBT asylum seekers, we flee persecution from our country just to find a place where we could call home. So I felt like I was safe because I have left a place where they have called for my persecution to be brought down dead or alive. Well, I was mentally distable because I've never been in a cell before, and it was the first time I was in a four-wall of a cell, and I thought I was going to meet freedom. So the freedom was trapped by having to go through mental pressure and fighting a legal battle. Things I haven't done before. I haven't been to a court. I haven't been to a cell. I had to eat what it's just like being locked, a dog that is locked in a cage. You are brought out to see the sun in the morning. You return back to your cage. Whatsoever your owner says you should eat, that's what you have to eat. It's really, really difficult being in a detention center. I never saw sun. When I said like a dog brought out to see his son, but I never saw the sun. All I did was imagine how it is outside to see the sun. But 5 months and 2 weeks, I was just hoping that one day I would get out of the detention and be able to live freely as a member of the LGBTQ community in the US. Previously, before I left my country, when I was growing up in my community in Nigeria, I found myself to be very, very different and challenging in situations because I was very proactive in everything I do. People say, you're quite different in the way you handle things. I'm very meticulous. I pay a lot of attention to details. But I didn't define anything I was doing back then. So when I got into secondary school, I was sent to an all-boys secondary school because my parents said that I behave kind of feminine sometimes and they want me to experience how it is to be masculine, because in the struggle of worry, we believe a man should be masculine. So I was sent to Unity Model Secondary School in Agbaro. It's like 10 miles from where we live. So I was sent to a boarding school. In my boarding school, I had my first sexual experience when I was in my first year of my boarding school with a student in my class. It was consensual, but because the guy was from a Muslim family, he said it wasn't consensual. Yes, other students saw us and they said they were going to report. So it took, like, it was first to run to the school authorities and said, oh, I tried to be sexual with him and it wasn't consensual. So the school asked other students who were in favor of him, trying to blackmail me. So I was called to a school assembly like in the morning, and it was very shameful for me because they told everybody, oh, he's being sexual with another student. They define homosexuality to me on that very day, that is a gay, and we don't want students like this in the school. I was being suspended. They sent letter to my parents telling them that I tried to be a bad influence to other students. So I was brought back to school after 2 weeks. So my parents did not hear at that time because they felt like I was a child. I knew not what I was doing. But before I came back home for Christmas holiday in 2001, it was a community college. Everybody came back home. They were telling their parents what I did. Parents Teacher Association. My story was everywhere. And this was the guy who was trying to force another student to be sexual with him. So my parents were really, really angry with me. So they gave them a suggestion that I could be cured of being gay by taking me to a traditionalist who would try and cure me from being gay. So my parents took me to a traditionalist, my dad. They cut some marks on my stomach about 1 inch long, about 25 different places. They tried to preach some like medicine and say they were curing me of being gay. But I don't know what was being gay or what they were all doing, but I know I had feelings for guys. So it was very difficult for me. It just showed me how my parents rejected me for who I was. So I struggled through secondary school. Even trying to maintain friendship with people was really, really difficult. When I was in secondary school, when I was in senior secondary school, I was made a prefect based on merits. But the junior students in the dorm I was put into tried to blackmail me by saying I was trying to be sexual with them even when I was not. Because I was trying to be very careful after the persecution I suffered in my junior secondary. But the school have to remove me from being a prefect because they felt like I'm of bad influence to them, even though it was on merit basis. So I became mentally unstable. I couldn't get into college the first year, 2007. I got admission to go to a college in my state. I refused going because I wasn't able to handle the mental pressure of going to college with members of my community I went to high school with. So I lost a year. I applied for other colleges that were distant from my home, and I was accepted to Enugu State University of Science and Technology, which is like 8 hours drive from my hometown. So while I was attending college there, I studied food science and technology. There was a lot of pressure from girls in my department who wanted me to have a relationship with them, but it was very, very difficult. At a time, I was forced to have a relationship with a girl. In 2008, I had a relationship with a girl for 3 years because the community in Nigeria, they don't accept any form of they classify you to society as a status in which you have to fall into at a particular age. So if you're in college, you have to have a girlfriend, or you have to have somebody that's coming to visit you, or your neighbors will say, oh, you're something else. And it's like tradition for a girl to come and cook for you, something like that in college. So I was forced to have a girlfriend. So I was dating this girl for like 3 years or so, but it wasn't working for me. So I just did it to fend off persecution from members of my class and my neighbors, because they were all suspecting the first 2 years in college, why don't you have a girlfriend? So I did it, but I later left that because it wasn't working between both of us. I had my first relationship when I was almost done with college with a guy I met on a social network. Before I met that guy, I suffered a very terrible persecution in Enugu State, which made me have a girlfriend. Before I started dating the girl, I tried to meet a guy on the social network called Manjam. When we tried to meet, the guy told me that he was gay, blah, blah, blah. So we arranged to meet. I went to see him. So I didn't know that he was a black male. So we tried to did something. So the other and another 2 guys walked into the room. They took my cell phone, my debit card. They went to the ATM, took my money. They said, if I make any move, that the police is just like 2 blocks away from here, that they were going to hand me over to the police. And it's very scary to go to the police because the police are the major perpetrators of LGBTQ people in Nigeria. So after that incident, I was afraid of myself. So I started having a relationship with a girl. So when it didn't work out after a time, I tried to look for a guy. So there's different means of meeting guys in Nigeria. At like 2012, it now became likely more possible to meet a guy because the community has started growing. We meet at parties, social network. There's a way you could discern if somebody is really a member of the community, but sometimes you could be unlucky. So there are some bars in which members of the community sit. Sometimes police come and break into those places, but there's a way we do it whereby we are a lot more safer and more aware about the environment before we make decisions of meeting. We meet at friends' places. So I met a guy in Abuja. He came to a party in Enugu, an Abuja guy. So we met, and that was my first relationship I had. So it was really fun, but it didn't last because people will know you are gay if you are always going out with a particular guy for a long period of time. It's a whole bunch of difficult times to be who you are in Nigeria. I moved from Enugu State back to Delta State because nothing was working out in 2013. 2013, my family wanted me to get married to a lady because I was done with college. They were like, we have a lady you could get married to. So I moved out of Delta State in 2014 and I went to Niger State. I stayed in Niger State for a year. It didn't work out because I couldn't even have a relationship with a guy. I couldn't meet anybody because this is a northern state and they practice Sharia law. And the Sharia law, any slight notice that you are a member of the community, you will face very cruel persecutions. So I left Niger State and I came to Abuja. So Abuja is a bit more accepting of gay people because it's a city, it's a metropolitan city, and a lot of people who are diplomats, a lot of people who are working with diverse community and groups, a lot of lobbying happens in the city. So when I came to Abuja, it was fun at the beginning because I started attending gay parties, a lot of gay parties in Abuja. A lot of friends invite you for meetups, stuff like that, until January 2014, where the anti-gay law was passed that persecutes gay same-sex relationship by 14 years imprisonment and activism by 10 years imprisonment. Then it was really, really difficult. So the first attack that came up in 2014 was in Gishiri community, where gay men were dragged out. I was in Abuja then, out of their houses. They were beaten on the streets, both the community members and police, saying that gay are evil, we are going to burn them alive, they don't want being in the community. It was very difficult then. And then I was thinking what's next to do, if I should leave Nigeria. That was when I thought of leaving Nigeria. But I couldn't leave at that time because I really had so much love for Nigeria, because I feel like there was going to be a day where we are going to be able to express ourselves for who we are, and people are going to understand who we are. So I came out fully as an LGBT community member in 2014 when the law was passed, because I wanted to stand for what was right in spite of the harsh law that was passed to persecute members of the community, because a lot of people could not able to access HIV services anymore because they were afraid to meet up in community centers, because the law says arbitrary forms of relationship will be persecuted. Amorphous show of public affection, I don't know what amorphous means, like any shape or in any form it comes, you are going down. So it was really tricky, it was really hard at that time. So we are people who were standing for other people, were persecuted in every single snap. So I was working with a community-based organization in Abuja then, which was advocating for the rights of gay men to have access to healthcare services. And a lot of gay men in Nigeria die from HIV because there was no access to healthcare services. So this community-based clinic was there to provide ARVs and other forms of treatment to members of the community. So people were afraid to even access the services even though they were free. So we're there to go to the community, do community awareness programs, do advocacy programs, talk to people to come to the center, get tested. We even take test kits to the community and test people in the community because they were afraid to come to the community center. 2014 was a very difficult year. A lot of Nigerian LGBT community members traveled out of Nigeria because they were afraid that they were going to fall victim either now or in the future. So it was really a hard year for us in 2014. But it was 2014 I came out as an open LGBT community member in Nigeria.
It's very brave of you. What made you decide that you had to leave, even though you really loved Nigeria?
I was having a relationship with a French guy. He was sent to Nigeria as a diplomat. So we were dating for about 8 months, and I really wanted a long-term relationship because I feel I deserve to have support by a man. So I was planning to travel to France and get married in 2016. Early 2016, I was planning to go to France and get married. So while I was having the relationship, I was working with a firm, an international NGO. And then I've left the local NGO and I was working with an international NGO. I was doing advocacy in the Abuja community with governments, policymakers, trying to break the lack of awareness in the community. When we're doing the advocacy, members of the Hausa community, Muslim-dominated community, attacked me on July 23rd. It was actually my birthday. So I was attacked by members of the community. They dragged me out, they beat me up. They were saying that he's gay, he's advocating against our religious views and the rest. And we don't want people who are possessed to be in our community, stuff like that. So while they were beating me up, I blacked out. So I woke up the next day in a clinic and I asked, the nurse said that I was brought there by an old lady who had pity on me and saw the identity card on me. So she brought me to my facility clinic. So I was there for about 7 days. So when I recovered when I was able to speak, I just documented my case at a community center where human rights abuses are documented in Abuja. Then the visa I could get at that time was a UAE visa because it took me 2 days to have the visa. So I got the visa and I traveled to Dubai in August 2016. But in Dubai, I couldn't seek asylum based on my sexual orientation because it's a Muslim-dominated country. So I stayed 9 days in Dubai and I came back to Nigeria. And I was in hiding in Nigeria. I came out as little as possible. I wanted to go to Schengen because I had a boyfriend who was staying in France. So it was easier for me to have like emotional and psychological support settling into the community in France. But my visa, I was waiting for my visa where I got the invitation to attend the Victory Institute LGBT Leadership Conference in Washington, D.C. as a member of the LGBT leadership community in Nigeria. So I got the US visa in October, but I didn't want to come to US because I wanted to go to France. So I won an award as a grassroots advocate for LGBTI folks in Nigeria, prevention on HIV prevention, BCC prevention, behavioral change communication by AVAC. Is an advocacy group here in the US. So it was during the HIV Arophobia conference in October 19 to 21st. So my names and photographs were published on the internet on 23rd of October 2016. So I couldn't stay further because I've been persecuted in the past and I was going to face more persecution because of my face and names that have been published on the internet. So I bought a ticket on the 23rd, that very night, to travel on the 25th. But my flight was shifted to 27th. I stayed in the hotel about 2 days. So I flew straight to JFK. So I left Nigeria because my life was at the verge of being taken away because there was posters all over the city saying that this guy has been found to be involved in homosexual activities by Malam Shehu Dance. Is a big religious head in the north, that anybody that sees me should bring me dead or alive to the religious center. So I had to flee. So when I was at the airport, I was literally crying because I didn't want to leave Nigeria at that point. I just finished my master's and I want to still do more in the community. When I was in transit, I tested a friend who was living in Brooklyn, and he said if I get to JFK, I should come and meet him. But when I get to JFK, all I was thinking was, should I ask for asylum or not? I was stamped to go in. I went to collect my bag and I said, this was why I came to the US, and let me just get an immigration officer because I knew nothing about it, and tell the immigration officer that I came to seek for protection. So I told the border control officer. Telling the border control officer was even harder than not telling the border control officer because of what it is in Nigeria. I don't know what is obtainable in the US. But when I told the border control officer, I was humiliated. Telling the border control officer, he sat me down for about 2 hours, asking me questions which we take a professor in law to be able to explain. For someone who is fleeing persecution, who is unstable, who has jet lag, 12 hours, doesn't know how the system runs in a new country. You sat me down and were questioning me all about my life, and you expect me to tell you in just some few seconds. It doesn't work that way. So I told him, I'm a gay man from Nigeria. I was persecuted in my country, and that's all I have to say for now. If there's another opportunity to speak, I will speak more. I was persecuted this time and this time in my country. It's a long story. I couldn't say it all at the airport, but I was very, very angry that I just came trying to find protection, but I was treated as if I was a rag, not knowing the struggle I went through to get to the border to seek protection. So it was really annoying for me that when I thought US was the place of freedom, not knowing that I was going to go through another form of persecution that I never expected at the border, because the border patrol officers are trying to scrutinize who is saying the truth or who is saying something wrongly. But it takes bravery for somebody to leave his country and go to another country. So there should be a level of understanding that you should give to somebody who is just coming to the country than sit the person and trying to make the person a fool to say something that will persecute him and take him back to his country. So that's what asylum seekers suffer at the border. It's very, very terrible to be able to skate through the border without being deported back to your country. Even submitting yourself, surrounding yourself to the border control is a problem. Being caught at the border as an asylee is a problem, because I came in when the election fever of Donald Trump was still there. So the ICE officers were really, really much of a bully at that point to immigrants who are coming to ask for asylum at the border. I know of people who told me at the detention center that their friends they came with were returned back from the border. I met people at the detention center who came from Nepal, LGBTI folks from Nepal to Brazil. They traveled through 7-8 states to get to Mexico border. Some of their friends were returned from Mexico border to their countries because they were having passports of their countries, something they could use to deport them. It's very difficult for LGBT asylum seekers to even have audience from border control officers who are homophobic or who are discriminatory based on race. Some people classify you that you are a useless immigrant if you come from particular parts of the continents that are classified as third world countries like Asia, like Central America, or you're coming from Africa, especially West Africans, who are treated very harshly at the border by these border control officers.
Well, you went through a lot, but now you have your asylum. How does that feel?
So having the asylum makes me feel a bit relaxed, but there's still a lot of documentation that has to take place on my path to citizenship. But having the asylum was a very big race, because when I came to the detention, I was thinking, how can I be able to face trained legal prisoners who I don't have the strength to speak to because I am not trained as a legal prisoner? Most LGBT asylum seekers, the first problem we go through is trying to get legal support to fight our asylum cases, which was very difficult. But luckily for me, immediately I came into the detention, a night I slept in the detention, I was given a toll-free number to speak with Immigration Equality, which was able to walked me through the process of going for my credible fear interview. Even a paralegal was on the phone with me when I was doing my credible fear interview. The credible fear interview involves you telling what persecution you went through in your country. So Immigration Equality tried to apply for parole for me because it was very difficult for me to stay in the detention center. They wanted me to come out and fight the case outside. But I became bully after Donald Trump won. That was in December 5th. It was very difficult. They refused to grant me parole, even with all evidentiary documents that I was eligible for parole. So Immigration Equality linked me up to a law firm, DBOS and Plainpom, which represented me with legal counsel and walked me through the process. Although the asylum process is very difficult, but with the legal representative, it just looked as if I went through nothing, because I just slept, woke up, saw myself on the final court. I spent less than 10 minutes in the court, and the judge said, your case is well documented and I'm granting you asylum based on your membership in a particular social group. So first of all, the legal counsel for asylum seekers is very, very important, because without it, asylum seekers who are LGBT folks are being sent back to their country to face the harsh persecution which they are running from. So what sense does it make to battle against a legal personnel who is 10 times more equipped with you, more than you, has internet access, has access to journals and everything that you don't have access to? You are detained, you don't have access to your cell phone, you can't communicate with your family, you can't communicate with people who will provide evidence for you. So I feel asylum seekers are being bullied by the system because they prevent people from getting what they want, because they feel these asylum seekers are forging their way to citizenship. There is no way anybody who is sensible will leave his culture, leave his accent, leave the way he dresses, leave the food he loves eating, the way you like traveling, and come to a country where you have to learn everything afresh, where your English you speak is a second language to people who English is their first language, where your skin color is a second color to people who their color is an indigenous color, where your legal documentation is a second or a third documentation to people who were born in the US, who are whites, who can speak the local language. So I don't think it's sensible for LGBT asylum seekers to be bullied by border patrol officers, the states, the government, using people as a way of making money, keeping people in detention and extracting funds per night they spend in the detention center as a means. No matter the days, the months, and the years you spend in a detention center, it doesn't grant justice. Justice, or somebody who is, they say they are trying to curb away evil people from the society. But putting someone in a detention center can make somebody violent when he comes out, because the first thing you saw was learning how to be a criminal by being locked up in a detention center. So being granted asylum makes me a bit happy. When I came out at the first time, I was very, very happy, because my dream was to be free and be happy. And I believe I've been able to attain my dream of being happy by walking on the streets of New York every morning, because New York is a very diverse city. It has a lot of history in the race towards achieving equality in LGBT. I was in Christopher the other day. I saw the Stonewall where the LGBT revolution started. So New York City is a diverse city which allows immigrants to settle a lot more easier than other cities. But despite it is quite easy to settle, there's still some technical difficulties which we face that are internalized as a result of how we perceive ourselves to a ratio of the statistics of the majority of the people in which you find yourself into. And United States is very monopolized in terms of their system. I was using a different system where we say kg, here they say pounds. So we say it's Celsius, they say Fahrenheit. So they monopolize everything. You have to learn everything afresh. So it's insightful, it's exciting to learn these things afresh and know that the world is a large book. I've only been reading one part, and I've started reading another part since I came to the US. I've been experiencing different culture, different foods, different places, beautiful architectures, LGBT people who are free, who are accepting of who you are, people who are ready to dine with you. Some people are Russia, some people are non-Russia. But sometimes I feel like some white folks are like having self-pity on black people, like when they make you feel as if they're just trying to pity you because of your color. It's really a big thing in this country, but I believe it is good to stand for what is right. And that was what brought me into this country, standing for what is right. And if what is right is to be a voice to people who are vulnerable, I will continue to be a voice to people who are vulnerable in any way I can, and not to interfere with things that will obstruct my path to citizenship in the US.
What was the most surprising thing for you after you were freed from detention about living or moving around in the New York City or the United States?
The most surprising thing so far was seeing two guys kiss in a subway station, because in Nigeria it's difficult for you to hold a guy. Talk much more of hugging a guy. So it was a shock to culture for me. So I was tripped by such kind of scenario. And New York City has very beautiful architecture, nightlife, Times Square. I was there one night, it was beautiful. And it's just a lovely city. I think I would want to explore more, not just New York City, but United States in general. So I'm not trying to rush things because this is my new home. And in your home, you learn things and you progress as the time goes by. So I feel, for me now, it's a shock to see these things, but few years from now, it will be like a part of my life. So for now, it's just a shock for me.
And do you currently live in Brooklyn?
No, I live in Queens.
What do you like most about living in Queens?
Beautiful part of living in Queens is like using the 7 train as the most diverse people in any little geographical area, from 34 Austin Yard to the main 7 Flushing. I read that more than 700 languages are spoken by people who live in that geographical area. And it's a bit more relaxed for me because there's a lot of people of color found there. And I came to understand that like Asians have taken over that part of Queens. So it's nice to see how people could migrate and become integral part of a community, support the development of that particular community, and be a part of that community. So Queens is a very beautiful place to be. It's quite peaceful, and I'm still going around trying to understand the place, but I just moved from my house to the subway station down to town. It's just 1 train, so it's a beautiful place to stay.
And you talked a bit about immigration equality. So how did you get the phone number for immigration equality?
So when I came to the detention center, I have one of my friends' phone number. My first friend I called gave me immigration equality number and told me that immigration equality is waiting to hear from you. that they heard you were detained yesterday, and one of the paralegal will talk to you. So I got it from a friend. But when I stayed in the detention center for about a month, I discovered one LGBT folk in the detention center who had immigration equality number also. But new LGBT folks who came, I also gave them immigration equality number. So it's like a shame. We try to be discreet in dissemination because some people they discriminate you when they get to know about your sexuality. So it's easy to get, but we kind of like identify members of the community by targeting.
So, do you miss Nigeria?
Oh my goodness. Not for now. I miss Nigeria, but for now, I just want to go over the mental battle I went through all this while. But yesterday I went to an Accra restaurant to eat a Nigerian food, and over the Memorial Day weekend, I had an invite by a Nigerian friend, an LGBT community member. When I went to his apartment, like 11 other Nigerians were there. It was in Bronx. It was the first time I went there, so it was very, very interesting to see that, like, you have a community in this city. I had Nigerian foods and the rest, and I asked them, "Do you guys miss Nigeria?" Everybody said, "Never." Like, do you want us to go back and get killed? But what I miss about Nigeria that I haven't found in the US is that LGBT community in the US is individualistic. It's not like a community whereby people are like giving you support psychologically. So why it's different in Nigeria is because of the struggle. Because it's a struggle, everybody tries to identify in a movement. Nigeria is a big country, over 180 million people. But I know almost 70% of the LGBT community members who are gay men in Nigeria, because we try to have a network so people will not fall out of the network and get blackmailed, get extorted, get beaten by people or something like that. So in the US, in New York is free to, so you hardly get connected to community members because everybody is running around trying to get their bills paid and the rest of it. But in Nigeria, although we are working professionally, but we have like times where we come together and we don't pay consultants to speak about our mental health. We do it together. We talk about issues we are facing, the struggles, we cook, we play music. Sometimes inside our rooms, we do our drag parties and the rest of it. So those are the things I miss about Nigeria, whereby your community members are trying to be free and exercise who they are inside the house. When we come out, we change our colors and we just move out. So that will be a big part of what I will miss from Nigeria. Secondly, I'm going to miss my peer, because people I grew up with, people I knew as friends, people I go out with to barbecue, a lot of events like that. It will take some time to break even and try to be able to have that kind of life in the US. But I feel maybe when I'm 70, I'll go back to Nigeria and allow them to kill me. Or when I'm 70, would have won the battle over the harsh anti-gay law. It's a struggle. I know one day we'll be able to achieve a level of acceptance by the community. But I hate Nigeria because of their religiousness, which runs over everything. Like, oh my God, there's a saying that you can pray gay out of your life, that you are not a Christian, that's why you are behaving like this. Even pastors, head of religious centers, they try to have sex with guys behind closed door, and when they come out, they say rubbish. I know of a lot of religious leaders who have come in contact with that I've met them in an advocacy meeting, something like that. I've met them in parties asking for contact of other gay men. And when they're on the pulpit, they're like goddess. They have never experienced something like that. So all these dramas are things you are likely to miss, but you never know what will happen in the future. Maybe we'll be able to achieve some form of equality and we all go back home.
Well, while you're here, what is your life like here?
So basically, since I came out from detention, it's like 6 weeks now I came out from detention. Today is just the 6th week on the dot. So I've been working through my social security, state ID, health benefits, and some other stuff which I've been able to play around with. I'm also trying to look for a job in health education field. Or I'm also supporting a community-based organization here that works with the empowerment of detained LGBT immigrants, helping them do fundraising to be able to empower asylum seekers who are detained in detention centers in New Jersey. So I've been working with 2 firms. There's a firm they call First Friend of New York and New Jersey. I've been helping them do fundraisers to be able to support more asylum seekers who are detained. Basically, I've just been giving support to the community and trying to remedy my mental ability to be able to handle bigger and more assignments that will be placed in front of me in no distant time. So a big part of integrating into this community is trying to understand the history, the culture, and the rules of living in America, because from my background, everything is difficult to break into because I've seen that race is a big issue, although people don't like to talk about it, but I like to talk about it. Race is a big issue. Educational qualification outside the US might be a big issue, but competence in your skill might be important. I also have seen that the LGBTQ community in the US are really doing a lot in trying to break even grounds with equality and fights to push bills in the Congress. I was with Human Rights Campaign last week when I was briefed about the new bill they are trying to pass called the Equality Act that will ensure full equality under the law. So I think times will come where it will be very, very easy to be an LGBTQ folk in the US and almost every other part of the world. So I'm just trying to integrate to the community.
Well, it sounds like you're finding more people that you can be part of a community with. Do you feel like you have some growing community and friends here?
Yes, I have some community members who are my friends, but because of what happened, I'm afraid to really connect to the larger community. This is the first time I went to any community center in New York. There are a lot of community centers. I'm afraid to even attend a pride event or something. It's because of I'm trying to handle the pressure and the stigma, the discrimination, the persecution, the sores, the heartache and the pains of the past. I'm trying to let them go before I become a full member of the community, because I don't want to make people feel sober over myself when people are supposed to be having fun. So I don't want to spoil people's party. So now I'm just trying to be more knowing myself than integrating into the community. So when I know myself better and understand my chemistry better, I will venture into understanding and connecting to the community at large.
So, what do you like to do? It sounds like you like to walk and look at architecture. What are you enjoying doing the most?
Okay. I like to talk. I like to speak for the rights of minority. I enjoy advocating for people. So I like to be in social gatherings where I connect with people and educate people on issues where they will be able to connect with these issues and will break even ground. But socially, I wouldn't say I'm a social animal, but I like parties. I like to party when I'm free. I like to visit the library in the mornings when I'm free. I also like to watch TED Talks when I'm free. So when I'm free, I do three things. I either go to the library, I watch talks at home, or I go to party at night. So I find myself doing one of those three most times.
And do you like to cook?
I studied food science and technology. I have a master's in nutrition, but I'm a fucking bad cook. Sorry, I used that word.
That's okay.
I can cook one Nigerian food that was my local food in Warri. It's made from palm kernel fruit. I could cook it because it's very easy. It's just like extracting the juice from the palm kernel fruit and adding spices. Then the food is ready. So, and I find it problematic in New York City because if you don't cook, you find yourself eating a lot of junk and you grow bigger. And there's no way you could avoid that sometimes because the system needs you to be up and doing. So at the end of the day, you are tired and you just get to eat the junk. So now I'm even struggling with my stomach to make sure I don't grow too much belly fat. That's just off point. But to say I would like to learn how to cook now, since it's now a requirement to live in New York City.
What does it mean to you to have asylum in the United States?
So having asylum in the United States comes with a lot of benefits. First of all, it's a path to citizenship, which is very difficult to get in any other way. I don't know, I would have gotten a path to citizenship apart from asylum, but I didn't brought myself here to become an asylee. Circumstances brought me here. So being an asylee in the US is an advantage to me because I've been able to live freely and happily as a gay man. I've been able to access public assistance and benefits from the government. I've been able to have an unrestricted social security, which is like being a US citizen. So to apply for a job almost like a US citizen. And being free to walk in the city without fear being persecuted by law enforcement agents or running around as an undocumented immigrant. So in my own case, it was different. I was detained, it was very difficult, but when I came out, I was free. So it is an advantage for people who flee persecutions from their country to be granted asylum in the US. It will, first of all, make them feel like they have achieved peace of mind, not only fleeing away from their country, but having a new place to call home. So that is an advantage for asylum seekers, to have a new home, to feel free, to express themselves, to integrate into a new society and have a new family. So it is good people who merit asylum to be granted asylum. And it's also good for the larger community to support firms who provide support to asylum seekers, because I wouldn't lie to you, I would have been back in Nigeria right now if I didn't have the support of Pro Bono Legal Counsel, because it will cost me close to 15,000 US dollars or more to get a good legal counsel who will represent you as an asylum seeker. So I don't know how long it will take me to save that money to travel from Nigeria and come and seek asylum in the US and pay such kind of money to get a legal counsel to represent you. So it is good to be granted asylum, but it is also good for the larger community to accept these asylum seekers and make it easier for them to integrate into the society. That is a very important thing, because you should not be feeling like, oh, is it greener on the other side? Maybe I should leave the US and seek asylum in another place, Australia or Canada, because now I seek asylum here and people don't want to treat me as members of the community. Even among I've not met an African American since I came here to sit and have a chat with him or something like that. But I've met a lot of Latinos, but I feel like African Americans Black Americans hate African Americans, and African Americans hate asylees. They're like, these guys are coming to drag what we are trying to build. You understand? But everybody should try and break our differences and let's be human. Black, white, brown, green, red. Because I saw two couples, a guy and a lady. The lady is black, the lady is black, the man is white, their baby is brown. So we don't know what will happen tomorrow. But to break even in the way people think psychologically, more awareness need to be done. It's just like breaking even in Nigeria as regard to their cultural belief of who gay people are. It will take a very long time, but progress will be made. So that's how it is in the US also, because a lot of kids grow up in a segregated society whereby they meet only their same kind. Even some black folks, we have phobia internally to even interact with other color, not because they stigmatize or discriminate us, but because we have that internalized phobia of what it might come up to because of previous experiences. So we just have to be human, break our fear, involve more interaction with people of different races, even gay, straight, everybody should drop our differences and integrate ourselves, because I just came to understand yesterday that being queer is not being gay or straight, but being human. That any creative human being is a queer. So it's just a way of, if you say you are gay, bi, trans, it's just identification. But everybody on earth, we are queer because we like to be creative in one way or the other. We like to dress fancy, we like to do things fancily. And this little touch of fancy things makes you a queer, which we don't just want to identify as queer. But queer is not being only lesbian, gay, bi, or trans. So it's just differences in knowledge level, prejudice, ignorance, and the kind of background you grow up with. These things affect the way you interact with people. Well, we should learn to be more human and less classifying ourselves into different classification that makes us feel distinct from other people. Just like allowing your ego to gain gratification over being a significant edge over another person. That's what it says when you are trying to prove that you are different. Even some gay guys try to prove that they are different from straight people, have internalized homophobia that makes them stigmatize themselves, and they are not free to express who they are. So it's just a general, natural thing. It's nature trying to be different sometimes.
Thank you for that. What What do you want people to know about you?
In the few seconds we spent, you might have known everything about me. So I am Edafe, and the narrative I just gave is a part of being Edafe. But the only part I haven't said is I am like an orphan right now because my family and I have a dysfunctional relationship because of my sexual orientation. I have no immediate, like biological family. My elder brother, 2 sisters, my mom and dad were separated ourselves. Maybe we might form a bond later in life, but now I'm separated from them. But families could be people you choose, and we could have biological family. So I'm trying to build a new family with people I've chosen and people who have chosen to love me for who I am. And life is becoming more enjoyable and more bearable than what it was before.
Is there anything else that you want to add?
Basically, if there's anything I want to add to this entire interview is to talk to the general American population that they should understand one thing, and that thing is humans will always be humans. Color, sexual orientation, religion, nothing should stop us from loving, because love is the greatest. Even according to the Jew-Christian religion, the first commandment says, love thy God with all their strength and with all their heart and with all their minds. That their God is a jealous God. Secondly, he said, thou shalt love their neighbor as themselves. So, if the God of the Judeo-Christian religion advised people to love, and most people, even the Muslims, are from the Abrahamic faith, and the Abrahamic faith says, love your neighbor as yourself. And the other commandments say, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not kill. Or in all this, it's talking about loving your neighbor. In giving love to people, you get more love. And if you hold back love, you can't get love. And in giving love, you don't know who you will help. Because they say that helping a stranger might be you helping an angel that will help you tomorrow. So let's just try to be more accepting of people and drop our egocentric ideologies and just be human. You meet a cripple, a lame person, disabled, blind, whatsoever the person is, just love the person for being human, and don't allow your ego drive you crazy to try to make you feel that you are 10 times bigger than that person, because from dust we came and to dust we will all return. We don't know when we will die. In trying to make that person look little, a train might crush you, and that might be the end of your life. And that love you do not give might stand against your conscience and your spirit for the rest of your afterlife. You might live to regret not giving love to that person. So let's just continue to love each other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.